We had some fantastic teachers, and one of the things that one of my elementary school teachers told me very early on is when you educate a woman, you educate a community. Not just a family.
Welcome to Beyond the Plate. I'm Paul Jacobs, where food is more than just a meal. It's a powerful way to connect, inspire, and transform.
We call it tertulia, a gathering where bonds are formed and stories are shared.
Get ready to dive into real stories that inspire, challenge, and nourish the soul.
I'm Daniel Patiño, inviting you to join our tertulia and explore how food and connection can truly transform lives.
Let's go Beyond the Plate.
Welcome back to another episode of Beyond the Plate. I am Daniel Patiño.
And I would be Paul Jacobs still.
He is still Paul Jacobs, that's correct. And today we're celebrating International Women's Day on Beyond the Plate. A round of applause.
Wait a second.
I'm a little home away from home, so
we've been on the road a while. Where did all these people come from? We're usually in the studio by ourselves.
We'll ask after the episode so they don't scram away, right? They don't get scared. So today, again, we're celebrating International Women's Day, and the United Nations has designated this year's theme for International Women's Day is in part with Accelerate Progress.
Love that.
Accelerate Progress. And here at Food for the Poor, we believe that invest in girls today to empower women of tomorrow. I like that. Back to progress, though. Progress isn't easy. It's well, we know that the definition of progress is to mean to move forward, and sometimes it's a little tough, like assembling furniture without instructions or Wi-Fi. You know, one of those things. Or
I can never get that thing figured out.
Oh, never. If you have no Wi-Fi, you can't do it. Or sometimes it's easier said than done. It's like hitting that snooze button 5 times before you finally get out. It's easier said than done.
Oh, yeah.
So back to progress, though.
Well, I looked up some things on progress, and this is interesting. The term progress is defined as the process of moving forward towards a goal, towards an improved state, a higher level of development.
And it's not linear.
And it's like, ooh, wow, wow, la profesora. Excuse me, I love, and it's not linear. That's exactly right.
That's correct.
And it involves personal growth, improvement of skills. It involves societal development. That means your community, our community, communities afar and near. Physical movement. That means that we've got to take action, as well as overall improvement. And the essence personifies and signifies positive change, advancement from a current state to a more desirable one, progress. And here at Food for the Poor, women and girls, through a range of programs that address the challenges that they face, from education, we help in healthcare, microenterprise opportunities, focusing on self-sustainable solutions, charity. This charity, our organization at Food for the Poor, aims to create the long-term benefits that extend beyond immediate relief. Progress. So, let's make some progress and introduce our guests.
And in this episode as well, right?
Yes.
Let's get to the best part of it, and it's to introduce our panel. So let's go first with our first panelist. A marketing visionary driving impact for Food for the Poor. Her strategic vision powers Food for the Poor's mission to change lives. Also a little bit of a global perspective. She was born in Ecuador with a degree in international relations and an MBA from FIU.
Golden Panthers.
Golden Panthers in the crowd. That's right.
All right, sorry. I had to get it out of my system.
I heard some
You started.
You were purring before I even said that. Career spanning top brands like Medtronic and as well as Western Union. She's an academic mentor, professor, and instructor. And here at Miami-Dade College as well, decades of expertise, mastermind behind integrated campaigns, digital advertising, analytics.
This one person?
I'm still going with years of experience in global marketing.
It's making me nervous.
We're still going. We're still going. This is good. That's why we're here. Hello, right? And Food for the Poor's Leadership, Executive Vice President and Chief Marketing Officer. Please help me welcome Vivian Borja.
Welcome.
Thank you. That made me really nervous, though.
I hope I got all of them right.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Who else we have here, Danny?
All right, we're going to welcome our next panelist. Now, let's see here. Brains and Impact is how I saw it. Former director of Academia Corp, driving national charter school success, and her roles with Broward County State Attorney and Elections Office. she gets it done, as well as TV hosting royalty featured on Amazon Prime's Taste of the Islands and TLC's Homemade Simple. And as well, this was my favorite. She is a on-air superstar. Talk about host of School Duel, 15 seasons strong. She was an on-air talent for the 3-time NBA champion Miami Heat.
No. Your Miami Heat. I had to get that up.
Thank you. And as well, she did she's a little bit of a award magnet as well. She's named one of Miami's top 40 under 40 leaders of tomorrow and 50 most powerful black business leaders. Basically, a big deal. A powerhouse of talent and leadership. Please help me welcome our next panelist, Lee Arneaud.
And you left out the most important role right now. I am an entrepreneur. I have my own PR and marketing company right now that is flourishing.
Yeah, LA PR. LA PR. That's right. Awesome. Well, finally, we get to meet Michelle Gollapalli, fundraising expert with 25 years of global impact. Now, if you're not, have a seat because this is a good one. She is the Executive Vice President and Chief Development Officer here at Food for the Poor, leading major gifts, donor relations, business development, a diverse experience such as experience in healthcare, youth services, education, diversity, and inclusion. A former VP at ECRI Institute and VP of Development at Jefferson Health Foundation. Her community roots, Michelle began in India, where she led adult literacy programs and volunteered at a hospital in rural areas near her hometown of Bangalore. Her passion for community and outreach grew there. Her roots were deep there and began there. And listen to this. Well, wait a second. I think you made a mistake on my cue card. This says triple major. That means like 3 degrees?
That's right.
Triple major in English literature, psychology, journalism. Oh, and by the way, there's an MBA in marketing in there as well. Okay? Certified fundraising executive since 2004 and a published author to boot, just on your spare time. Just on your spare time. Michelle's leadership and dedication to philanthropy drives lasting change. She has done that. Global impact, leadership, philanthropy. That is who we have as our rounding off our panelists. Michelle Gollapalli, welcome to Beyond the Plate. And you may have heard, not only do we have this illustrious panel, but we have a few visitors in our audience today, but we also have a few visitors watching us by way of social media platforms. So we want to let you know that we've got a number of questions that we'll get to a little bit later from our audiences that are watching us on social media, whether you're on Instagram or Facebook, TikTok, or YouTube. There were some notes I had here, like I've got to get them, got to pay the bills, right?
Gotta pay the bills.
You can find us on Instagram at beyondtheplate.podcast or on TikTok or the same handle at beyondtheplate.podcast. Also check us out on YouTube, Food for the Poor, Beyond the Plate. Please, we would love for you to join us for this and many of our awesome episodes as we're beginning our second season. Imagine we're here already, our second season. We're 2 years old. We're terrific too. Well, let's get started. You know, this first question, we want to get started with this very first question, but I wanted to not just isolate one of you, but have you all address this, because I think when we talk about accelerating progress, it really begins with this very first question, and it's going to take you back a little bit. The question is very simple. What was at the heart of your community? Your community, whether it was your community at work, whether it was your community at school, maybe it was your community back home that, well, promoted your progress. Vivian, why don't we start with you?
I would like to give kudos to my mom. Mm-hmm. Really, she was such an amazing role model, and that's how my volunteering spirit came about. She lost her parents at a very young age, so she took to heart really taking care of small children in orphanages back in our country in Ecuador, and she started taking me there from a young age. So my mom is incredible because not only that she served as an amazing role model, my dad had to travel a lot around the country. So my brother and I, always with my mom. But what I loved about my mom, it's her energy. She had always has, such a positive, energetic point of view. She's always joking around. And since a young age, she was always saying, you can do, like my biggest cheerleader. So that's at my heart.
Wow. Energetic, joking around. And apparently the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. She was a big influence. Good, that's great. Lisa?
Wow, when you talk about community, I see a flag up there that represents my community, which is the beautiful land of Jamaica.
Uh-oh.
And that's right. We're very proud people. You know, my parents immigrated here from Jamaica, and we were really insulated. It's funny because I was born in New York, but I was raised by Jamaican parents, and it's funny because people hear me and I can speak patois, and they're like, "How he can do that?" And it's because I was so insulated in my community, and it's because, just like you were saying about your mother, my mother too was a big part of the backbone that I have today, as well as my father as well. But I do know that my father, and we talk about this all the time. You know, I'm a PK, and my dad was outnumbered in our home, 3 daughters. I'm the middle, so I'm the rebel. So you know, my dad still had some old school views in life with things, and so I know my mom quietly rebelled a little bit in a positive way, though not in a negative way, but in a way that she would allow us to grow as women, to take advantage of opportunities that she didn't get to take advantage of. She wanted to be a nurse, and she said that her father told her, "No, you're going to secretarial school to be a secretary." My mom became a secretary, and you know that she did not want to do that, and she lived a life where she didn't get to accomplish her dreams, but she was able to instill in us through community, through her being a part of organizations. She was a part of her school's organization back in Jamaica, Alpha Academy. She had me on stage performing and doing things from when I was very young. And she would always reach back. It was an all-girls school, so they were always rah-rahing each other up. And they did that with my sisters and I. And now my sisters and I are all professionals. My older sister is a nurse manager at Memorial Hospital. My younger sister is a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army, also a dentist. Ooh. And then me, I'm the one with, you know, the 10 jobs one. So, they did a phenomenal job. And Paul, many of you might not know this, but Paul, I grew up with Paul's sister and Paul as well, but his sister is my best friend since we were in 5th grade. We did everything together, dress alike, did everything together. But his mom played a really big role. I was thinking about your mom the other day as I was picking my son up from school. Your mom would come and pick up your sister and your siblings from school, and she would drive me home in the opposite direction that she had to go, knowing I would have to walk home. And she would pack me in the car with all the kids, because he has a lot of siblings, pack me in the car, and she would drive me home. And I thought about that. You know, and as a woman, as I grew up, I became that mom that your mom was, packing all the kids in the car and driving everyone home, being that community. So I'm very grateful for my community, and who I am today is definitely because of the women who grounded me and molded me.
Wow, that's awesome.
Thank you.
That's awesome. My mom's going to watch this episode. Thanks for keeping me.
Yeah, let her know my birthday. My birthday is coming up. Yeah.
What do I click to know more, please?
Love you, Anne-Marie.
Michelle.
For me, it was my grandmother. I was raised by my grandparents. And my grandmother had an early start in her married life. She was married when she was 16 and raised 8 children pretty much single-handedly because my granddad had a job that, had him travel a lot. And she's seen her children through she was a very fierce, protective mama bear, and she's seen her children through some very hard times for India. After the independence, when the Muslim part of India separated into what is now Pakistan, and the majority Hindu area stayed. in now what is India, she had to deal with a lot of community violence and riots happening just outside her house. And she would talk about times when they didn't have anything to protect them. So she would mix chili powder with sand and keep it in this big pot, right? And she would have all the kids sleeping, but she would have a bag packed. So if somebody burst into the house, her method of protecting herself would be to throw that in their face and then pick up the kids and run out the door. So she was always vigilant, and she was one of the strongest women role models I have ever had. Even now, when I have the gratitude of being surrounded by a lot of women mentors as I was growing up. But my grandmother really stands out because she's the one that taught me a lot of my founding and grounding principles of being the woman I am today. She's the one that always said, make sure, in things like financial independence, she always said, make sure you have enough money to buy your own flowers or to buy your own diamonds. And so,
I'm going to take that home with me today.
Yeah. So
the difference is my wife's in the building. Yours
Right, this is for my girls.
Yeah.
My wife, no,
She just heard that.
yeah,
Flowers.
but strong girl power, Yeah.
But that wasn't a grandmother. That was a warrior.
Oh, she was.
Nurtured as a grandmother from
She
heart
was.
of the
I
world,
mean, don't mess with her kids, and she was coming after you.
A handful of chili powder and sand.
Absolutely, yeah.
I'm already feeling it. I feel the itch. Lisa, this one's for you. An investment in girls today leads to resources available, opportunities, and inspiration needed to success. Now, I am a #girl dad. I got two beautiful girls at home as well.
Congratulations.
So all of this right now is going to be replayed 24/7 in my house, just to let them know. This is just for educational purposes, ladies. It's all right. Disney's coming up next. Let it pass. Let it pass. So, and as a proud dad, here's the question. So, what are some easy, everyday ways we can help young girls thrive, aside from me being at their soccer games and cheering the loudest, because I got that down to a science.
You do?
Yes.
Let me hear.
Mama!
Yeah.
What else other than that?
The fact that you're even considering in your head, what should I be doing, is the start.
Yep.
And that's just what we need. We just need the start of you and your brain cells just saying, how can I help? What can I do? Because that is exactly what you do here at Food for the Poor. You think, how can I help? That's where it starts. And then from that is the implementation of what I can do. With young ladies, I think the biggest thing is to just, as fathers, and as men in their lives, you just don't realize the role you play. I was raised by a very proud dad, strong dad. He raised us like boys, so I feel bad for our husbands. When our husbands get together, they like to, have a little powwow and say, oh, Lisa does that too, and Tamara does that, Natalie, and we're all kind of, we're a little rough, but we've learned, God is working on that with us. But at the same time, my son complimented me the other day. I have a 21-year-old son, and he said to me, Mom, I need a girl kind of like you, because you're kind of like a boy girl, but not really in a loving way, not in like a weird way, in like you're tough, Mom. You have grit, like you do it. Like if they're not gonna take out the garbage, I'm like, whatever, I'm taking out the garbage. Which sometimes I know my husband's like, please don't take out, let me take out the garbage. Then it becomes an argument. But at the same time too, I think but just empowering them, knowing that they can do anything that you do. Now, do we want to do everything that you guys do? Absolutely not. But just let us know that we can do it. My dad would take me out with him. When he was changing the brakes, I was there with him. I was like the little tomboy, and he would have me pump it, okay, hold it. And when he's doing the brakes, and I know how to change things in the house. The first argument I had with my husband was we just got married, we were pregnant, and he needed to put the crib together. But he grew up in a home where he didn't really have to do those things. His dad didn't do it. I did everything with my dad, so I was like, you don't know how to put a crib together? Like, how do you not know how to put a crib together? And I'm calling my dad, and I'm calling my daddy. He doesn't know how to put a crib together. It got to a point where now he's like, I don't care, call your dad. I do not know how to do this. So now it's to a point, and we're going on 24 years marriage. And so, it's just becomes this thing. Teach them everything. Show them everything. Do not hide. Be honest with them. It may come back to bite you now, okay? Because we also have a 23-year-old daughter who's like, daddy this, that, but it's okay because it's in them and they know. Even when you're telling them about men, I hate to hear all men are dogs or all men are that. That is so not true. That is not true. We have to stop casting everything with a wide net and just stereotyping things. No, that is not true. You look for the heart in someone. You look for them. Look for a praying man. Look for someone who's going to pray for you. And at the end of the day, she's going to be fine.
Lisa just used my... Lisa just used my favorite word, grit.
Yeah, grit.
Grit.
Really quick, let's touch on that. Let's touch on that grit for a second. What is some of the grit that you have received or sent out as a mother, or received from your mom, which I'm sure had that same grit?
So I'm going to use, I know Winston Churchill had a lot of amazing phrases, but actually for me, his favorite one is the most simple one. Never, never give up. That's my favorite. So my mom always said that to me, and I'm always saying that to my two boys. And I know it's really simple, but that's my favorite phrase. And for me, that is what encapsulates grit. You never give up.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So I'm going to come back to you, Vivian. Studies from the UN show that when more women enter the workforce, economies thrive. A little obvious, right? So when it came to hiring new talent in the organization that you've led, how did you help boost the economy one amazing hire at a time? Did they have to have the same love as coffee for you and efficiency and all the above?
So for me, I would say it has always been a priority to build diverse teams. I think the richness of having those different perspectives is really what makes teams thrive. So yes, I've always focused on really the right position to the right person, the skill set, the potential, all of that, but also ensuring that everybody has equal opportunity. So when it comes specifically to women, what I really value about women is, besides the grit, the unique insights of that nurturing spirit we have, the ability to multitask, the empathy, and all of that, going back to, well-documented papers, when you have diverse teams, when you bring all these different perspectives, organizations foster not only the growth, but innovation, resilience. So I think at the end of the day is really building those teams that you have all these different perspectives, because it will just make it richer.
Beautiful. And let me interject, because I have to give, to testify to that. Being a part of Vivian's marketing team here, honestly, you really have to try hard to fail. Like, you really got to be trying hard to fail, because, as you said, the nurturing, the diversity, the complement of people around us that help uplift and help us through very difficult projects, very difficult situations, whether we're just having a tough day ourselves, and it just, you just kind of fall flat some days. You're not, I would love to think that I'm this bubbly podcast host every single day, Monday through Friday. All you have to simply do is send one email to my wife, and you'll find out the truth of that. However, I digress. But I have to testify that you really have to try hard to fail under under your leadership, because of those qualities. But Michelle, that same question. You've been in nonprofit. You have been in the healthcare industry. You've done a number of things. What is kind of, I don't want to cheapen it, but what's your secret sauce? What are some of the things that you've included in your hiring practices, especially when it comes to diversity in women?
For me, a lot of it has to do with attitude. It has to do with how the candidate in front of me approaches the position, how they interview. Yes, skills are absolutely important, right? Skills are important, experience is important, education is important. But if you're not coming to the table with the right attitude, a right openness to be part of a new culture, to contribute to that culture, and especially with nonprofits, I look to see if the individual interviewing for the position has a heart for the mission that I'm hiring for. Because if you cannot really gel with the mission, if you haven't internalized that mission, how are you going to be our spokesperson in front of a donor? If you don't believe in the mission, if you don't walk and talk the mission, donors are going to see through it right away. And the last thing you want for any important mission is to have a donor not see that authenticity. You know? So for me, it's about attitude. It's about being authentic and believing in what you're here for. Everything else can be taught. Everything else can be professionally developed and worked upon. But if you're not coming to the table with that attitude, you know, it's not a good fit. Perhaps it's another organization that you'd be a good fit for, but not here. And I see also with women, there's a very high intuition that comes to bear when women are interviewing for the job. And, you know, you can see that through. You go through enough interviews, with enough candidates, you can start to see that. And, you know, there's intuition both on the part of the person being interviewed as well as the person doing the interview. And as you can see, as soon as you can see that fit, then you know something clicks. That's great. And it's going to be good.
I also think as women who choose to work, because, you know, at the end of the day, some people choose to stay home, raise their families. And for those of us who choose to go out and work, we also know that we are representing everyone around, all the other women, right? We are, it's almost like culturally as well. When I step out and I tell you I'm Jamaican, if you've never encountered a Jamaican before, you're gonna judge them all based on how I'm treating you and what I say and what I do. So I know I have that on my back, as well as being a woman. And I feel like those of us who choose to work, we also want to, I don't want to say we want to prove to you, but we want to show you we are here because we want to be here, right? And some days I laugh and I'm like, who told us to go be Rosie the Riveters and we can do it all and raise kids, drive them basketball, dance, and this and that, and cook and clean and do all this, and who told us to do all this? But it's because we want to be here. We just know that. Just a lot of women, we want to be here. We want to contribute. And we want to use our skills and talents and be a part of the mission, as you said. So I think that it's important for organizations to acknowledge that as well. And I have an assistant who works with me in my company, and she had her first child the other day. She actually gave birth on Mother's Day. It was so beautiful. Aww. And I kept saying to her, are you sure you're going to be able to handle these accounts? Are you sure you're going to be able to do this? She's like, I can do it, Lisa, I can do it. I said, well, it's your first baby. You don't know what you're getting. You don't know what to expect. Blah, blah, blah. And I said, I'm just saying. I'm a mom of 3. I'm just saying. And I've worked all the time. And I said, I just want to give you leeway, but I'm going to be there for you. And she, she just was like, no, I'm going to prove you wrong. And she went above and beyond. And, there were times where we had to have a conversation. I'm like, just tell me. If it's a little too much, just tell me. Open dialogue is so important too. As women, we also carry so much. Whatever is going on, we carry it. We're empaths naturally. And so because of that, I think also employers should also take that into account. It's not that we cannot do what we need to do. It's just that you don't know what they're carrying that day and who they're actually trying to help or helping outside of that. Because we will take it all on.
Yeah, but to that too, I think it's so important as women leaders, especially, that we give each other grace.
Oh, say it again.
Because we don't do that often enough.
It's so
we
true.
don't do that often enough. So often we are held to that very high standard of, oh yeah, we can do this and this and this and this and this. And we feel that burden. It's like, oh gosh, if I'm not doing this, then I'm going to be judged. I'm going to be seen as a failure. But I think as women, it is our imperative to raise each other up.
Yes.
Because that's the only way we can all get to where we need to.
And we're not each other's Yes.
Yeah, it's not.
And we are not each other's competition. Like, that's one thing. I've always worked in very competitive environments, broadcasting, getting on TV and doing different things here and there. Even in the world of dance, I watch my daughter and I try to tell her, There's a Jamaican saying, like, what's for you can't be unfor you. What for you can't unfor you. So what is going to be yours, what God has for you, is yours.
Always.
What is not for you won't be yours, and it's okay. And you have to realize that. So I am always cheering on my sisters, my friends, and telling them, because at the end of the day, what is for you just have to know inside of you. This is going to be for me. God's going to provide this for me and give this to me. If not, I am so happy, Vivian, that you got that job. I'm so happy you got that role. I'm so happy that you're here. I am so happy that you're doing what you're doing and you are flourishing. We have to do that because it also blesses you. At the end of the day, we don't realize that when we bless others, we are truly blessing ourselves.
That's for sure.
So, yeah. Thank you. Thank you for my first round of applause. Thank you.
Don't drop that mic.
Now I'm out.
And I want to just kind of, before we get to Michelle, I had a question for Michelle, but before we get to Michelle's question that I had kind of prepared, I want to go back to something you said. You talked about providing that. There has to be a provision of that grace. I'd like to hear pretty much, starting with Michelle, Lisa, and then Vivian, what does that grace look like? Let's give a practical example. Maybe something in your own personal experience, but what does that grace look like? Because it's easy. We can say it all, oh, we've got to provide that grace. And we don't know what it looks like.
Paul wants the tea.
Yeah.
He wants a story.
Well, the truth is, Paul, grace looks very different each time. It's not the same all the time. It could be a conversation with a colleague, and the colleague is upset about something, and your first tendency could be to take it personally. But you have no idea what that person's going through. And so grace could very well be not to take it personally, to give the person grace in that moment, and then maybe to come back at another time and say, let's talk about that. What was upsetting you, and how can I be of support?
Excellent.
And I think that's where we need to be with each other. Be of support, be of service, because anytime we all face obstacles that we don't know about, right? We're not always prepared to slay the dragons we meet. But if we're able to be kind and allow that person the time to express and the space to express what they need, then we can come back to it and figure out a solution together.
That's great. That's awesome. Thank you. Lisa.
All right, so I'll give you guys some tea. So I'll tell you a story about me. When I applied to, when my child was really young, and cut me off if you have to, because I have a degree in communications and I will talk. So that's what I do. You think Paul can talk? So I saw when my kids were really young, like I always knew I wanted to be a broadcaster. I wanted to be on television. I've been doing this since I was a child, like on the radio since I was 16, doing things, wanted to be this news anchor, right? Big thing. Got married really young, right out of college, started having a family. And I knew with the world of journalism, you can't just go into, nobody cares about your kids. They don't care about your family. One of my friends, someone said to her, the worst thing you could have done coming in journalism is get married. That's the worst thing you did for your career. Like, they just don't value that. So I knew it was gonna be hard. However, one day my husband loves the Miami Heat. We go to a Heat game, we take the kids. It was Bernie's birthday party. So all, the Miami Dolphins was there and the Heat, all the mascots are there. And I see this lady behind the camera interviewing people, and I looked at her and I said, oh my gosh, I want that job. That's the job that I want. And so lo and behold, right after that, didn't know how I was gonna get that job, but the seed was planted. And I ended up winning a contest where I beat out 700 other women to be the morning show co-host for a radio station down here, 103.5 The Beat. And I was on the radio and I was doing that. So I was a morning show co-host. And I got to interview some people from the Miami Heat. And I told them, I said, hey, I want that girl's job. And they were like, oh, her name's Julie. I want Julie's job. You guys better let me know when Julie's done. I want her job. I want her job. So, a year or two passed, and lo and behold, I found out Julie was leaving. Word got back to me. Ooh. So I was like, I gotta get Julie's job. I had no experience, very limited in front of the camera experience, but I knew I wanted that job. And so we went to the mall, I bought a jersey, I put on the back of the jersey, Lisa Lee, #1, and I wrapped my resume tape, because back in the day, nothing was digital. You had to have like a VHS tape, and I wrapped my tape, whatever work I had, and I wrapped it up in the jersey. I sent it to them. I said, pick Lisa Lee because she's the #1 player for the job, And they interviewed me. They actually interviewed. This is where you gotta be creative, marketing, kind of creative thing. And so this is how you stand out. You gotta stand out, especially for this organization. Like, you know how many applications they get? So I eventually got interviewed, and they told me I knocked it out the park. I know I did. And they were like, wow, we now know how to walk into an interview because of you. You're amazing. I didn't get the job. I did not get the job. I cried. I was sad. I could not go to a Heat game. My husband couldn't turn on the Heat games. Nothing. I was so upset. And they were like, we really, really like you, but we're going to give it to someone else. During that time, I actually got pregnant with twins, and I ended up losing them. And I felt like it was my fault. I lost the twins because I had bad energy, because I was upset that I didn't get the job, and I didn't want to be pregnant. And, you're internalizing. Talk about giving yourself grace, right? That wasn't my fault. But it was just something that happened. So lo and behold, they ended up hiring someone. She didn't look anything like me, but she was pregnant. And while I'm there beating myself up about, being pregnant and all this stuff, I didn't give myself grace, right? I didn't let God's will happen. I didn't listen to my Jamaican saying that's in my head. I did not. And a year later, they called me and said, hey, it didn't work out with the other person. We'd like to offer you the job. And so things may not happen the way you want it to happen and when you want it to happen, but you do have, it's timing, and you have to offer yourself grace, and I did not do that to myself. I was beating myself up. What did I do wrong? How did I do this wrong? And then a few years later, when they were restructuring the whole organization, they ended up letting me go. And I was devastated, because I knew I was phenomenal, and everyone kept coming up to me. Even now, if I go to a Heat game, now people will say, I don't know why you're not here. You were better than everyone else, and blah, blah, blah. And they eliminated my position. They didn't have anyone in my position for a while. But again, I had to offer myself grace, because I had to realize that environment maybe just was not for me. And being a married woman, I was constantly being hit on, and maybe it was making my husband feel uncomfortable. I don't know what God saw that I didn't see, why I didn't need to be there. But I had to offer myself grace and know it wasn't about my skills, my talents, or what I brought to the table. And I think for me, that is what grace looks like, that you're not blaming yourself or anyone else, that you are accepting the fate and trusting in God and knowing that whatever is happening for a reason, and you are exactly where you need to be at the moment you need to be there.
Wow. Amen.
Sure. Thank you. Another round of applause is 2.
That's right. You got 2. 2. Okay. I've got 1, and I've been doing this for over a year.
No, thank you, but that's my 2.
Vivian, what does grace practically look like?
So I think it starts with you. Give yourself grace. I believe all of us go through moments of self-doubt and second-guessing. Let's normalize that. That's normal. It's a normal emotion to navigate. And just, get into the zone to counteract when those thoughts come and change the framework, so you can embrace your potential and claim your agency. All of us have something to add. All of us have an expertise. And for going back to my mom and question number 1, that grit, one of my mom's favorite phrases was that, claim your agency. when I was going through moments like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to pass the test, or whatever it was.
Okay. What was it in Spanish? What did she say? Like, I want to hear it in Spanish. What was it? Claim your agency. I want to know what the translation is, because I may repeat that at home, but go ahead.
Well, there's no literal translation to that. It will be kind of Ecuadorian slang. I don't know if it's allowed.
As Danny and I like to say, that's beyond the plate after dark.
Podcast is still PG-13.
That is awesome. That is awesome. I really love this, because This is becoming more than just a panel discussion. We are building a roadmap. You all are creating a roadmap, a superstructure for success, not just for women. Women is the center of this discussion because it's the day of International Women's Day, but it's really affecting, I think, all of us. And you look in the audience, we don't just have women in the audience. We don't just have women watching this podcast. There are individuals who understand and identify with the grace and identify with those Julies that we had to get out of our way so that we can get our objective met. And that's so beautiful. Michelle, my question, before we really turn it over to our audience, we've got a number of questions on social media as well as on our audience here. This is going to really be interesting because I think it speaks to society at large when we talk about women's issues. UNESCO, which is the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization. Say that 5 times fast.
No, I'm leaving it up to you.
I've been practicing all
My
week.
jaw will unhinge if I try to...
Isn't it that organization that the Avengers belong to?
Yeah, it's like SHIELD or something.
Oh,
like that.
SHIELD. Never mind. Okay. UNESCO says a single year of primary school has been shown to increase the women's wages later in life, potentially up to 20%. Now, who in this room or watching us wouldn't want a 20% lift, okay, just by getting a little education? Well, we really want to know, why does it matter to communities, whether it's Amatitlan, Guatemala, Bangalore, India? Why do these issues matter in communities across the world, that education create a lift for individuals in their income capability or potential?
So I had the privilege of having an education in an all-girls school. We had some fantastic teachers, and one of the things that one of my elementary school teachers told me very early on is, when you educate a woman, you educate a community. Not just a family, right? And to me, that's always resonated, because wherever I've seen in the volunteer work that I've done, and we had adopted a village close to where I grew up, and we had a woman's, we had an adult education class there, and we made special priority to teach the women, because at least the India that I was growing up, a lot of the women are educated with the sole purpose of having a higher value in the marriage market. And even in my school, which was a fairly affluent school, a lot of my friends in 8th grade dropped out to get married. But that education that you give a woman at that time is passed on to her children. And that's important, because children then get that appetite to learn. And when a woman is educated, now her awareness about so many different things are raised, right? She can stand up for herself, she can stand up for her children. A lot of times she's the only one doing that standing up for anybody at all. And so in doing that, in creating that sense of empowerment for a woman, a lot of that is education. Education is power, especially in countries that are developing, because a lot of these women don't have that agency, and a lot of them have been raised to believe that they are second-class citizens, that they are less. So how empowering is it to teach a woman that not only is she not less, that she is enough.
Yes.
What she learns, she grows from. And when she grows, she brings others along with her.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's what's so at the core of that empowerment, education leading to empowerment, leading to communities developing.
That's great. That's great. Anyone else want to take that?
I gotta say this. Lovely, Michelle.
I love you too, Vivian.
No, just I was reflecting when you were saying that, and I think education is critical for self-advocacy. Mm-hmm. So I loved when you say standing up, right? Mm-hmm. It starts within. Yeah. So it's advocacy starts also from you. no one can do it for you. You got to do it for yourself. So.
You know, I'm realizing that as I sit here, I have a very different perspective because, you know, I was raised here in America. And I never felt like a second-class citizen, even though I am a Black woman. And I know that, you know, we do battle racism and things that are occurring and people having their own views on different genders and races and people. And, you know, I was trying to relate and I was like, wow, I'm so privileged. I didn't realize that in what you're saying. And I was joking in my head and thinking, well, we want to get an education. We want to buy nice things like the diamonds your grandma said we need. We need to buy things for our kids and, you know, fancy house. And it was so shallow in my head. And I'm like, you know, like I didn't realize how I wasn't thinking on a global scale. So thank you for that perspective and as well as you bringing that perspective, because I think that we take for granted, especially being here in the States, despite the turmoil that we see on the news and we see things, we still a lot of times are in a better place. And we just have to be grateful and encourage our youth, because, you know, I did work in the education system for a long time, and you can see the disparities within the different cultural groups and races, and you know, you wonder what is it and what is the driving force, and why is it that you do see immigrants come to this country and build businesses and they do things, and you're like, but wait a minute, why isn't it happening for those of us that started here? Why does it take us so longer to do it? And I think also being raised in a home of Caribbean parents, they understood that, so they forced that on us, and it just became a part of us. Like, you were definitely going to college. We're not paying for it, by the way. You're going to get a degree. You're going to get a scholarship. You're going to figure it out. You know, you're going to be responsible for yourself, but it wasn't an option for us not to go to college. It wasn't an option not to go to school and take advantage of the system, the free system here. So, just thank you, ladies, both of you, for bringing your perspectives to the table.
You're welcome. And what's so important to also know is that in all of the countries that we serve, that Food for the Poor serves, that is the reality of a lot of the women and girls there. And so that's why the work that we do is so important, because not only are we doing that community development, education, and focusing on women and girls is an investment not only in their future, but in the entire community's future.
Definitely has a ripple effect.
Without a doubt.
Bear Brews! Picture this. You're brewing an incredible craft beer, but entering the non-alcoholic market feels impossible. Well, we're talking about too much cost, too much risk. Sound familiar?
That's where Bear Brews rolls in, literally. They're your mobile partner for advanced de-alcoholization and pasteurization. Say that 5 times fast.
Can't.
No capital investment, no hassle, just results.
Their mobile tech lets you create non-alcoholic beer without losing that flavor your fans love. Same beer, huge new market.
Oh, and here's a game changer.
All right.
They recover the alcohol byproduct. You can use it to create seltzers, cocktails, you name it. More products, more revenue. Bear Brews!
Based in North Carolina, Bear Brews works with craft breweries like yours. Whether you're brewing 2,500 barrels or 200,000, that's a lot. They bring the tech to you.
Want to test the waters? Oh, I see what you did there. They even do small batch trials to prove the market, no upfront costs, zero risk.
So, stop putting that non-alcoholic market and seltzers on hold. Bear Brews is here to help you grow without breaking the bank.
Ready to grow your craft brew empire?
Sure am.
Visit bearbrews.com right now. That's bearbrews.com.
The mobile tech, the results, the partnership. I'm talking about Bear Brews. Let's make your beer the next best thing.
Well, I'll applaud to that.
Yeah, cheers to that.
Bearbrews.com. That's BARE brews.com.
Today is a special Beyond the Plate Live. Celebrating International Women's Day here, and we're joined by Vivian Borja, Lee Arneaud, and Michelle Gollapalli, and we have some questions from some of the folks I've been following at beyondtheplate.podcast, and as well as some questions from our audience.
Yeah, and those of you that are in our audience, if you have a question, if you would, please just go ahead and line right up here. I'd be more than happy. We'll just get a chance to address the panelists, but we've got our our questions from our
me get
social
one,
media
yeah.
audience. You want to do that?
Yeah,
I'll
I'll
just
get that
kinda
while you set
move
up.
over here
Go
while
ahead.
you talk.
Do your thing, thanks. Yes, please follow us at beyondtheplate.podcast. Once again, at beyondtheplate.podcast. It was on purpose.
Yeah,
It was on purpose.
right.
So our first question comes from our Instagram account, once again, at beyondtheplate.podcast. Here we go. Imposter syndrome and self-doubt. That's that dynamic duo we always love, right? Can feel like such heavyweights to carry, especially in your career. And they usually pop out at that right moment when before you go into a major interview with a career that you so love, or you have to present yourself in a certain way. So this is for all three, anybody who wants to tackle it. What advice would you give to women who feel stuck in this mindset? Anybody?
You just do it. Coco Chanel says, do it and do it scared. Just do it. You have to just do it. We all are we don't know what we're doing. And the other day I was at Publix and there was a young man who, I could tell it was like his first day and he just kept apologizing. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And I was like, don't be sorry. Everyone has a first day. Everyone has what are you sorry about? You're here. You showed up. You got the job. So congratulations on getting the job.
Right.
And I just encouraged him. I think that a lot of us just walk around with the wrong attitude. At the end of the day, no one knows everything. And the quicker that you can acknowledge that, and the quicker that you stop walking around thinking that you're supposed to know everything, no, we are not supposed to know everything. And if anyone tries to hold you accountable to that, just stop them in their tracks and really just let them know, just throw out your grit and let them know that I'm going to figure this out. I might not know it right now, but I'm going to figure it out. And if I can't figure it out, I'm going to go to someone who can figure it out. And ChatGPT is a great friend these days, and you can figure everything out.
That's great. That is great.
I think, too, it's important to know that each of us is powerful beyond our own imagination. Yeah. And I say that because we've each experienced those things, right? We're all here not because we fell down 7 times, but because we got up 8, right? So we've done it. We've been there. Our success rate of overcoming challenges in our lives is 100%. So if we don't believe that power within us, gosh, we're losing out on so much.
Can we give it up to Michelle for the quotes and the book and the knowledge and the wisdom? Like, seriously.
She's claiming her agency.
She's dropping gems.
Wow. That's awesome. Yeah, no, this has become really, truly a path that a lot of us all can take together because the three of you have such unique perspectives. So we have a question from the audience. Please join us. Let's give it up. A brave soul, the first one. Just state your name and let's let the panelists know what you'd like to ask.
My name is Anna Duarte, and I'm a big fan of your guys' work. I'm just amazed by all of your resumes. And as a young woman, I'm just soaking in all the wisdom. So my question is, was there ever a moment you felt you struggled to get a seat at the table because you're a woman? And how did you ultimately earn that seat?
I could share an experience. Great question. A lot of times when I get to a table of influence, whether it's at a board, whether it's at a board meeting or senior level leadership, right? I often find that I'm the only woman of color, and a lot of times I'm the youngest woman there, even though I'm not so young anymore. I'm the youngest woman there. And this came from, and I think it's important for women especially to have mentors, but also male allies. Because you need to have somebody that speaks for you in a room when you're not there.
So true.
You've got to. So I remember my boss telling me, he put me on this board, he voluntold me to be on this board, and I remember coming back from my first board meeting and saying, Joe, I was the only woman there. Everybody else was an older white man, And he said, yes, but I put you there because your voice is important. Yes. And he said, don't just sit at that table because then you're wasting a seat. Yeah. Speak up.
Yeah.
And so I think it's knowing that whenever we get that opportunity, we're not just there at the table to sit, but to speak.
That's right.
That's awesome. Vivian.
That was a great question, Anna. So I like to challenge you. So one of the things that I would say there is focus on results, not on perceptions. Perceptions are everywhere, and you can't give your attention to that. So prepare thoroughly, claim your agency, and focus on results. Substantiate your results, and then the perceptions are always going to be floating around.
Lisa, something to add?
As women too, I've worked in a lot of environments where you're judged the way you look the minute you walk in the door. And I remember one time walking into a meeting with a lot of men, and my coworker, he was like, "How do you do that? Like, these men are just looking you up and down." And I was like, "Oh, that just means I have power. Like, that just means if they're looking me up and down like that, okay, that means I'm gonna tap into my power. I like that. That's fine. You just, again, accept the power and know the power when you walk into the room, and just just adjust your crown, and you walk into that room, and you really just have to own it. You have to own it and not be afraid. But yes, it's gonna happen. I have been around environments. I can always tell when a man is a chauvinist. I can always, because they won't look you in the eye. They don't want to hear. They're dismissive. I can tell. I can sense it. I sense it immediately, and it's okay, because I remember those little those punching bags as kids where it's weight at the bottom. You punch it, it goes down. It comes back up. You punch it, it goes down. It comes back up. Yeah, I had to deal with a guy like that one time, and I'm like, I'm one of those bags, dude. Like, you're gonna punch it, I'm coming right back up. You're gonna punch it, like, you are gonna get so annoyed with me, and that's basically what you have to do, and that's just how I tackle things and look at it. Because I'm not giving up.
And you do need to speak up too, because we have generations coming after us that are looking to see how we show up. And if they see you show up in a way that's deferential, that's quiet, that's what we're teaching them to be. So we're like extending that deferentialism to another entire generation. And we can't afford that. There's too much good work to be done.
That's right.
We want our nieces, our daughters, whoever it is, to be inspired.
Yes. And there can't be enough said about what you just said, because I think all is lost when we don't think of the next generation. And I'm not talking about our own natural children. I'm talking about the next generation of people that, whether you're mentoring, whether you hire them alongside you, or you're educating them. If you have this mentality that I've got to make it, you're the only one on that mountaintop, all is lost.
Yep.
And I think that is what you all have exemplified.
That's amazing. And this is why this is Beyond the Plate, inspiring conversations that nourish the soul.
I'm glad we named it that.
We're going to take it home with us. That's why. Got another question. This is from our Instagram at beyondtheplate.podcast. To all the amazing women out there breaking barriers and shattering glass ceilings and the occasional wine glass, how do you stay true to yourself while dealing with the pressure to meet everyone else's expectations? Is it your inner Beyonce, you set boundaries like a boss, or just smile and nod and still do your way?
You take solo trips, and you leave them, and you just stay in the hotel room, put on a robe, and order room service. That's what I did last weekend. And I needed a break. So you acknowledge it, number one. I think that as women, sometimes we just keep going, and I am so guilty of this. We carry it, and we're going to do for everyone. We're going to take care of everyone. We're going to take care. I'm in that sandwich generation, taking care of my parents, taking care of my kids, and, helping everybody out. And you're drowning. And, just number one, acknowledge it. And then once you acknowledge it, just make sure you actually listen. My friends kept telling me, like, Lisa, you need a break. You're doing too much. Like, relax. And it's hard to stop sometimes, because as ambitious women, again, we're Rosie the Riveters. We want to be out there and do it all. But listen to our friends, take a break, relax, and enjoy. Just enjoy the moment.
Yeah, savor the moment.
Mm-hmm.
That's great.
I would say there that authenticity is your strength.
Yep.
So how exhausting otherwise, right? So the raw, the realness, that's your strength. You just have to embrace your own self.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you're going to exhaust yourself.
Yeah, just to echo that, Oscar Wilde says, just be yourself. Everybody else is already taken. So there's a real power in being authentic. And to Vivian's point, I think we should also let people see that vulnerability, because that's what makes us human. And it's okay. It's okay to know that there are moments when we think that the world is ending. And it's okay to just kind of sit in that. But then it's also important to show that we can still rise up out of that and come back stronger than ever.
I love a podcast that can quote Coco Chanel and Oscar Wilde within the same episode.
And Winston Churchill.
And Winston
Churchill. Yes.
The podcast we're taking,
Yes.
we're just going to be ourselves. We're our own podcast.
And then just for the audience, if you have a question, please just raise your hand. We'd love to have your audience questions, but yes.
We got another one from our YouTube Food for the Poor at Beyond the Plate. What's a quality that has made a big difference in your life as a woman leader, and how can we nurture that in the next generation? So let's keep that circle of empowerment going. Who wants to tackle that one?
I'm laughing because I just think of my son's comment, Mom, you're like a boy girl. And I think also, like, looking at how men do it. Like, men are not afraid. You men will walk, you're not afraid. You're gonna just do it. We overthink it, I think, as women. And definitely we're kind of predispositioned to do that because we have to think about how we look when we go out, how we're dressing, if it's gonna be a little, risky on the top, make sure it's conservative on the bottom, or conservative on the bottom, risky on the top, or, we're always thinking about different ways of, we're always, no, seriously, like,
we think
you ladies know exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, that's why everyone's like, yes. And so men don't have to worry about that. They just do. They're just fly by night. They
risky
go out
all the
and
way.
do
We're just
risky all the way.
Think about it twice.
Exactly. So I think at the end of the day, we just have to just, I think, take a page out of their book and learn from them. That's what I have to say about that.
That's good. First of all, I do fear. I've been there.
The risky on the top.
No, and I do. No, it's interesting. It's easy to put yourself inside and say, this is exactly how I feel, and nobody else understands me. But I've experienced that. I've had those fears. I've had, how will I be judged? Because again, I've been the youngest man of color in a room filled of executives that don't look like me and don't sound like me, but I got to claim my agency.
Yeah.
And so I always belong wherever I am. So please, if you would, speaking of well-dressed, I might add. I had to get that in.
For those watching.
Just share your name and your question for our panel.
Michael Chinqui, and my question is more for Lisa, but both Vivian and Michelle may be able to speak to it. So to go back to the Heat when you were there for a short while, and then they closed it down and you left.
In between rings, so I don't have a Miami Heat championship ring. But go ahead.
Here's my question. So that would seem like a detour. You're not sure if that's where God wanted you. What golden nugget did you get there that you probably would not have gotten and you were able to use in other places?
I thank you for that question. I don't feel like that job was about me. I feel like that job was about my children, and I'll tell you why. I have a daughter who was a dancer. I'd bring her to the games with me, and she would sit on the laps of the dancers and she was like 6 at the time. My other son was like 4. They were like between the ages of 4, 6, those little ages, right? And she would sit on the laps of the dancers while I would go on the court and I would work the crowds, and same thing with my son. And I became friends with with all the players and their kids. So yes, I do know Dwayne Wade and Udonis Haslam and Shaquille O'Neal. And yes, I do know them. And I'm not benefiting financially from knowing them, just so you know. But my daughter ended up becoming a Heat dancer. And she was like, Mommy, it was because I used to come and watch you there and I wanted to be a Heat dancer. And her dreams were built there. on that court. And she eventually became he did on her first try, and it's really hard to make it on your first time. And she did that for 3 years. She just retired. And she did that while she was a student at University of Miami on scholarship, studying neuroscience and biology to go to medical school. Wow. And so then my son, Tristan, at the time, also, he was a little basketball player. We didn't know he was like that good and he was going to be a phenomenon, you know, and he ended up training with a lot of these athletes, their kids, and I got access to the best trainers, and I got to be in the best rooms and, you know, have great conversation to help navigate those fields, because my husband and I really didn't, we weren't athletes, so we didn't know how to navigate those fields, but we were raising athletes. Little did we know that our kids would become athletes as well. And so then now I have the 12-year-old as well, and so our circle then became a different circle of, now they're all pretty much retired, a lot of them, you know, but now my daughter knows a lot of the younger NBA players, and my son, a lot of his friends that he played with are now in the NBA as well, and in the NFL. So I look back at that job, and as much as it was a blessing to me, I feel like it really was starting that foundation for my children. So sometimes it's not about you. That's right. Sometimes it's not about you. That's right.
Yeah.
So thank you for that question.
That's right. That's so true.
Well, just one last question from our folks at TikTok now. It's at TikTok at beyondtheplate.podcast. Helping the poor goes beyond money. It's about kindness and action. Heart emoji. What are some things, they put it there, I have to add. What are some things you can do to make a difference? They said she helps Abuela with her 57 grocery bags. Wow. Hey, even the smallest idea is a big impact. So what are some things that we can do to make a difference?
So beyond volunteering, because that's the typical second answer, I would say advocacy. So educate yourself. Poverty is a very complex problem, so educate yourself and help spread that awareness. It's a complicated problem, and there's so many people that desperately need help. And we need to give voice to those that can speak for themselves. So,
yeah, know the facts. 1 in 10 women globally lives in poverty. And so know that, and then do whatever you can. And it doesn't mean making grand gestures. It could be starting a crowdfunding effort. But start small. Start small and make an impact. And because I work at Food for the Poor, come on board with us. We have so many ways in which you can participate, in which you can really make a difference, because together with your dollar, every dollar goes so much further in the countries that we serve. And there's a saying in Hindi, which I've said so many times to my team. It's ek aur ek 11, which is 1 and 1 does not make 2, but 11. So there's an exponential component to you collectively supporting the mission that you're passionate about.
Beautiful. Are you writing a book? Are you going to write a book? Sorry? Are you going to write a book? Because I would buy it.
Can we steal all Michelle's lines, please? I need to make
notes. Please, just transcribe everything she says and just start.
We need a transcription.
On it.
Please, ladies and gentlemen, what podcast quotes Hindi wisdom, okay? What podcast? No other podcast.
Beyond the plate.
But one. Lisa, you got the last word on that one.
The last word on that one.
How practical ways you can help?
Oh, goodness gracious. I think exactly what you said. You know, if it's, of course, obviously food for the poor, but find your community, find your village where you feel welcomed. You know, go where you're wanted, not where you're tolerated. Find that village. And when you find that village, give back. Put your hand back and pull up the next generation. Yep. Because again, you're going to be just empowering. It's not about, sometimes like I said, it's not about you. And one part that I left out of my last answer was, I was telling you about my son, about having access. I told you my daughter did really well, but my son ended up going Division I basketball for college, and he's in his junior year playing college basketball. And again, sometimes it's not about you, that village that you're in and what you're doing, and volunteering and helping others is gonna be your blessing. But it's also going to be someone else's.
Thank you.
Hold for applause.
Okay, great. As everyone knows, where was I? Oh, yes, that's right. We're wrapping up. This is great. Ladies, thank you so much. This has
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
We're
Thank
honored.
you.
We are blessed to have you here. And as everyone knows, maybe they know.
Now I know.
Maybe they don't know. We know. We all know.
We will.
We always end every episode on a
Positive note.
They rehearsed.
I did it.
Very
I told you they would. I told you they
I went
would.
baritone.
I knew
Three,
it.
and I felt it was a whole choir right there.
Octave, harmony. Oh, man. Acoustics. This positive note. It is a quote that reflects the contemporary perspectives on empowerment, on equality, and breaking the barriers for women. And as we've learned today, it's more than just women. It starts with women and extends to that village. It aligns with the spirit of International Women's Day. This quote, our positive note, comes from a Nobel Peace Prize laureate, Malala Yousafzai. She said, "We cannot all succeed when half of us are held back." Positive note. Ladies.
Awesome. So fitting.
That is so cool.
So fitting right
Hair standing on the
Yeah.
back.
now. Get one.
I'm rarely out of words, but you all have said it all. There is nothing left for us to say except now we just go do it. So thank you for being on Beyond the Plate, our special edition for International Women's Day. We look forward to part 2 in 2026 when you come back and maybe we expand and maybe we've got to double the panel. And we thank you all, and our audience, thank you all joining us for our Beyond the Plate episode.
Give it up to the two amazing hosts.
Oh! We'll see you next time on our next episode of Beyond the Plate. God bless.
Fist bump, ladies. Fist bump.
You just went beyond the plate.
Don't miss out on a chance to make a real difference, folks. Follow us on Instagram and TikTok at beyondtheplate.podcast and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stay connected by texting Best Bite to 51555.
You're going to get a cool link, and we look forward to having you with us on the next episode of Beyond the Plate.